coming in.
You're coming in
Um,
fine. And I'm going to
Excellent.
kick it on live because we have special guest and a solution. This is the best solution to creating a voluntary society, to creating what Titus Gable, if I'm pronouncing that right, would call a free city, or what, Murray Rothbard was talking about when he was talking about voluntary interaction. How do you do it in this day and age? Well, we got technology now. We got these. But the issue is, how do you use this? It's monitored by the government and everything else. Well, there's a little app we're going to talk about. I want to welcome Anam Paisenta, the CEO of Connector App. What is up, Anam? How you doing?
What's up? It's good to be with you, Kareem.
It is good to be with you. Love to hang out with other voluntarists. You have a robust history as a voluntarist, and I really looked at your stuff. You've been back there basically with Jeff Berwick, with the first Anarcho-Poco, like you said, Larkin Rose, Adam Koket,
Yep.
all the big names. So I mean, a history of your anarcho-capitalist voluntarist leanings.
Yeah, so I wrote Three Friends Free, and Jeff heard about that. We did an Anarchast. I think that was in 2012 or 13, and speaker at Anarcho-Polko 3 times, and other, various events in Canada and the West Coast of the United States. And I'm just doing everything I can to create freedom. That's the thing. That's Buckminster Fuller, create new paradigms that make the old ones obsolete. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what my latest venture, Connector App, the thing that's been in development for quite a while, a lot of moving parts with it. It's a whole ecosystem, and that is the probably the best way for us to attain real freedom and have an alternative to government is to create options. And creating options means creating intentional relationships, because everything that you want or need in life is, let's face it, it's on the other side of the correct relationships. So Connector App's what we're working on right now, and we're set for it to go big time.
Yeah, I love it. And one thing is an issue is a lot of voluntarists, maybe a lot of agorists, even just anarchists without adjectives, or people who want freedom. They don't know if their neighbor is pro-freedom. And I think that's a big issue when you say, like, how do we get, it doesn't have to be even people pro-freedom. You can bring somebody who just likes, lifting weights or doing whatever you're doing, shooting guns, going out to the bar, and then convince them of these ideas. So my big thing is, though, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I have Facebook for that. I have Google Maps. I have all the Web 2 big tech statist applications. Why would I pull Connector on my phone in the first place? Why not just try and find ANCAP man and ANCAP stand on Google Maps?
Yeah, so we feel that regular social media has failed with its promise to connect us better. These dopamine hits of looking for likes and trying to impress people online hasn't actually given us more connection. And so Connector App is social networking, not social media. It is not intended to bury you in kind of useless media, pictures and videos online in order to distract you all day long. The intention of social networking is to create real life connections that begin online because of the force multiplier for exposure that the internet is, but then bring those back to real relationships that are empowering to the individual and also to social groups and society at large, depending on what the scenario is. And that's the main difference between social media and social networking. Like, there are events that you can find on social media and then attend the events, and then you're back in a normal scenario, like a pre-connector scenario where you are talking to individuals and asking them are you a match for what I'm looking for? Like, that's just like going to the bar and saying, hey, do you know someone that knows somebody that has these traits that I'm looking for? And then you have to ask the next person and then the next person. And with Connector, you just put in a search term. Everyone else that's not who you're looking for disappears. So it's actually, our searching is actually a filter, and it's an additive filter. So if I wanted to find mountain bikers, so I can go ride, I'm new to town and I want to go ride a trail in the mountains and I don't want to go alone, I look for mountain bikers, but I don't like hanging out with statists. So I'm going to look up mountain bikers who are also voluntarists. So I'll just put in mountain biking as a search term, and then I'll do another search term, voluntarist. And now everyone that doesn't have mountain biking and voluntarism in their profile disappears. So that makes it more and more likely that whoever remains, we're already friends, we just haven't met yet.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the mountain bikes, but maybe you can convert someone. They're like, man, these roads are bad. In a private society, what would happen? Like, the roads are already bad. Like, that's the funny thing in Pennsylvania. They're like, Green, without the DMV, the roads. I'm like, have you seen the roads? What do they look like now? They're like, well, the status paradigm's, working at 1%, but I just don't know if anything would be better. Interestingly enough, we got some questions since I'm breaking down an AMA. I don't know who legendary Captain Lutz is. I have an idea. He said he spoke at Anarcho Poco as well. That does
Probably a friend of mine.
Fair enough. So, Captain Lutz, he's a skull captain, says we need privacy first. So as someone say, well, I want Connector app, but I just don't think we have privacy first. This is connected to a bunch of this is me now. Hi NSA, are we doing it? And I'm really upset because the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA see all my memes and they never like them, and I feel that's mean. They could take some time off from toppling, countries to like my memes. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
So we need privacy first. What do you say to that?
So I'm deeply concerned with privacy. If we were not able to do Connector app with privacy, we wouldn't do it. And if there are going to be things in the future that try to violate the privacy of people who use Connector app, we're going to do everything we can to cut that off and protect the users. Because the main motivation for creating Connector app started back in 2015 when I first spoke at Anarchapulco, and I was surrounded by my brothers and sisters who all share this common language of freedom. Every idea that we talked about was built on a foundational understanding of the world and human potential, what we really could be. And after that, I just couldn't not be connected in my daily life with other voluntarists. And so the idea of freedom is just, you can't separate it from privacy. So we've done some things in Connector that make sure that privacy is first. So like, we don't want to know who you are. A lot of these apps, they say, oh, Telegram and Signal are, they're encrypted, they're privacy. No, they're not at all. They're connected to your phone number for a reason. They don't do email verifications instead of telephone number verifications for a reason. No one can claim, I just don't believe that that a company can come forward and say, we need to know your phone number. And then trust us, we're private. So we don't want to know your phone number. We don't want to know anything about you. We want an email address, and you put in your own password. And we encourage you to make up a fake email address just for signing up for Connector. The only reason that that's there is because you do have your own Web3 wallets that are connected to Connector. So if you ever get locked out and you didn't write down your code word or whatever, then you'll be able to go back in. We don't have anything to do with your Web3 wallets, but we will be able to send you back a link to get back into your Connector account so that you can, if that's the only access you have to it. So we encourage people to use a fake email address. We don't want to know anything about your phone. That's why we created Connector as a web app. It will be available as a downloadable native app, but for Apple phone users and Android users, it'll always be available as a web app first, so that you're just using it in a browser. We don't know who you are. We encourage you to use fake names on your profiles. There's location setting for you as a user. For all your profiles, you have to put them somewhere on the map. You put them on the map wherever you want to. If you want it to be a static location that's not where you actually are, awesome. If you want to be, if you want it to follow you around, so you have live location reporting, but you want it to be vague, like within a mile, that's an option on Connector. If you want it to be precise for some reason, let's say you're running a business, you want your customers to know exactly where you are, that's also an option, and you control that. So, yeah, also the wallets, communications, we could have used these other technologies that are, I don't think secure. But instead we used XMPP based encrypted end-to-end internal communication. So connector comms are XMPP. And so we've done all kinds of things like that to create an app that is more private than really anything else I can think of on the internet.
Nice, yeah, because a lot of people are asking, how does it work, IP, Tor, stuff like that. But the good thing is you don't need to do, I will say this, if you have to do a KYC of any kind, like people think know your customer means, I got to pull out my passport, my driver's license, and the last time I had, Stromboli in New Jersey. No, KYC, if you get someone's phone, you can Google a whole lot of stuff about them. So that's still a pretty powerful KYC. So the fact that you don't have to do any KYC here, you don't even have to, you can put Bob at AOL.com, which is actually my go-to thing, because I just say Bob as a name, AOL, put it in, and I'm in Connector app. That's obviously not my email. So that's great. Now I have some questions that Captain is asking. He has a ton of stuff. So he said, does it use IP address, Tor, and I2P, I think he asked.
So we're getting into some technical questions that I'm probably not the best person to ask. I try to get more intelligent people around me, and our project manager would be better to ask some of these more technical questions about how the internet works. But what I can say on a layman level is that you can log into your connector from anywhere, any computer, any phone, anywhere. You could use the Wi-Fi at Starbucks, or you can go through Tor, you could use VPNs, anything like that. It's just a website, and we don't have any kind of weird blocking on it. If you put in your username and password, you're in.
Nice. So yeah, then it is technically as easy to get into, because my whole thing is like blockchain.io. You just create an email address and get started. So what do you say to people who say, because I know people are going to say this, no matter what, they have traditional finance, however you want to call it, and getting them into DeFi is a huge stumbling block, because they'll say, well, even though it's not true, but the problem is the paradigm has been so ingrained, just like, okay, no one could ever do the roads better than the DMV, at least here where I'm at. That, I'd love to get
except Domino's. I guess Domino's repairs roads better than the government does.
Yes, and I told people that, and they're like, well, that's it's just a one-off. But getting into crypto, I say, like, Captain saying DeFi is different, tokens and stuff. Fine. A lot of people are going to say getting into crypto is technically complex. It's hard. How could I ever set it up? I want to be free. I want to use it that, but I just don't know if I can get into crypto.
Well, I'll answer that question. People always give that, and they don't think about all the work that they did to get a bank account and to use government money, to sign all these forms, W-2s and all this, to receive money from their employer. Like, to be involved in fiat money, you're already in this complicated maze of bullshit that ultimately is going to be a noose around your neck. So anybody that thinks they can't get into crypto, they just haven't been sufficiently incentivized to get into crypto. And the only reason they are in fiat is because that was all that was available at the time. They'll get over it.
Yeah, they'll get it.
And we'll make it simpler as time goes by. Obviously, it's technical people who made these interfaces. With the pre-sale on Pink Sale, I had difficulties getting things set up. But over time, it'll be made more and more user friendly. But the fact is, government money is government money, and it's like everything else the government does. It's shit. It's really the lowest standard, the slowest, for the most money. And as soon as there's an alternative, a private alternative, it's going to be better. So like literally, if you said I want to trade with you anything else, I'm gonna consider that.
Yeah, well, actually, funny enough, like I'm a Fallout guy, and Fallout people trade bottle caps literally, after the end of society. So anything to me that has tangible value, as G. Edward Griffin said, like they asked,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a cellar of white wine, it could be Super Nintendo games, honestly, anything. Like heck, I pick any type of thing. But going back to Connector, the interesting thing that Captain is saying here is, I'll give you some tough questions as well. It says if ETH dies, which I don't actually see that ETH or Bitcoin dying. Let's assume this. If ETH dies, the token will die with it today, and that's very dangerous. Now, I don't think you're on the ETH blockchain. I think you're on BSC.
No, we're not.
So, is that even true? A, and B. Tell me a little bit about why Polygon is, the preferred thing for Connector.
So Polygon, we are indirectly on ETH because Polygon is a sidechain of ETH. But here's what I'll say about that. Like people say, if Ethereum dies, then all these tokens die. Well, that's true. But do you want Ethereum to die? Do we all want an alternative to government to die? We don't. So we're going to do what it takes to keep it alive. Now, on the other hand, do we want government money to die? It doesn't even matter if we want it to or not. It is dying. It's in the nature of government money to eventually be debased down to zero. So do we want these alternatives to die? We don't. So we will do the work to keep them viable. So going back to the second part of your question, what's the difference between Polygon, because Connector Coin is a Polygon token. What's the difference between Polygon and Ethereum? Well, for one, send fees. Currently, Bitcoin and Ethereum are not currencies, because a currency flows. And you don't know what it's going to cost you to send a Bitcoin or Ethereum from moment to moment, definitely from day to day. And the send times are prohibitive for normal transactions. And so with Polygon, your sends cost less than a penny. They take a few seconds, and that's reliable. And so it's more suited to be a currency where people can use it day to day. So can you buy a cup of coffee with Ethereum? You wouldn't, because it'd be a $50 transaction fee, and then the $3 coffee be a $53 coffee. Or you can use Matic or Connector Coin or Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin to buy a cup of coffee, and then it's going to cost you the $3 plus the 1 cent or less for the transaction fee. And the transaction happens right now, and the coffee house gets their money.
Well, that's an important issue you bring up, because the gas fees on Ethereum, I mean, just to break it down to someone who doesn't use crypto, if every time you had to use $1, you had to pay $100, it's not a viable thing to use. And if it took forever, then people are going to say, well, what's the difference between this and a wire transfer and fiat? Other than the $10,000 limit, which feds don't like, there, if you don't, that's why layer 2 blockchains, I think, are very powerful, because you can scale not only in sending times, but stuff like that. Now, for me, I kind of feel, and I'll answer this to, the captain right here, that if ETH dies or Bitcoin dies, like a lot of people give this really bad argument, well, I like crypto, it's cool, Kareem, I'm glad you're into it, but if the power goes out, that's just like a very short-sighted well, if the power goes out, well, a lot of these applications are on the cloud. So the power goes
Hmm.
out, I can go to
Hmm.
somewhere with power. And that's something that's on it. And I have a cold storage wall. So I was going to
Hmm.
jump into that. Um, if I have a cold storage wallet, or if I have a MetaMask, or if I have a thumb drive, or where do you recommend people store their connector tokens? I know that might seem like a weird question, but I want to throw that to you.
So I've always been more interested in cryptocurrencies as currencies instead of speculative savings accounts. So I I'll say you should do whatever you're comfortable with and store your connector coin and anywhere that works with Polygon. And I don't know too much about cold storage since I'm not interested in long-term storage of cryptos. Um, so I just store, my tokens and coins in normal wallets, and that's so that um, I actually use cryptos day to day. Every day I use cryptos. Everything that for the connector project has to be paid with cryptocurrency. My motorcycle club, our dues have to be paid in cryptocurrency. Connector itself, the company, we won't, from advertisers and from everybody on Connector, we don't accept government money. And more companies, especially forward thinking companies, are going to be like that, where we understand what government money is. Not only is the value going to zero more rapidly every single day, but it empowers government, which bombs the shit out of us. Maybe we should empower each other to engage in peaceful, voluntary interactions that make both parties' life better instead of paying somebody to bomb us. So the more conscious people get, and we're in this moment of great human awakening right now, and the more conscious people get, the more they're going to turn their back on government money and on anything really that's antithetical to the human mission of growth, prosperity, connection, and meaning. And so, uh, where should you store your cryptocurrency? Anywhere that you feel comfortable and you think is safe. But here's the other part of your question: if the power goes out, listen. If the power goes out, a lot of low consciousness people are going to be eating each other because they aren't operating at a level of opportunity to create a new society quickly. The entrepreneurs, people like you and I, are going to be seeing new opportunities and creating businesses and starting society that day, the new society based on voluntary interactions. People are going to be hungry. Great. You know what? Let's right now put some seeds in the dirt in the backyard. Let's get some tomatoes going. Let's get some chickens going. Let's get, whatever it takes. No matter what the problem comes up, it's going to be an opportunity for entrepreneurs. And so that's a whole new scenario. But hopefully, you took the time to create mutual defense agreements, private trade networks on Connector before the power goes out, so that you know people in real life
Yeah, let's
that
talk about
you're able to survive with. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the big question. I'll get into some things about like incentive and growth, but there's, I guess, two prevailing paradigms. And since Jay Padini like this, let's talk about the big paradigm. So because Jeff Gerwick even had a debate between, I think, Kokesh and Larkin Rose, do we use the political system or not? Now, on one side, this is my side. I'm like, okay, I'm going to vote local. I'm going to vote for the LP. Maybe if the Green Party has something going good, anti-war, I can jump on that, but I don't necessarily agree with them on energy. Okay. And then there's another side, if you want to call it the agorist side, but it's not, of people who just say, I'm not going to vote. I don't want anything to do with the political system. I'm not going to edge any candidates, even edging candidates who are Gary Johnson, George, whoever it is, even Ron Paul. If you're pushing these candidates, well, you're legitimizing participation in the system.
Mm.
Say, okay, that's a fair point. Like Konkin would agree with that, Agorist. So what do I do? And they're like, well, you ignore it and you delegitimize it. You get, the chickens. You get water filtration systems, you get firearms. I'm like, okay, I agree with that. But there's severe constraints where if you have a monopoly on force, especially one that we have that's a Leviathan, they start to run out of resources. They'll take that. So when it comes down to an actual solution outside the political system, instead of ignoring it or just doing chickens or all that stuff, why would I look to this as like the solution outside both of those paradigms? And I'll preface with this. I'm not saying don't do other stuff. Eric July does good with music. Jack Lloyd does good comic books. Adam Williams is very good at teaching people how to get these. And, there's people who are good at tech. There's people who have, but I'm saying in the event that we need an actual solution, instead of the chickens or instead of the ballot box, why do I look at connector as maybe the one thing that can fix this?
Well, there's a lot of questions there, and I'll try to unwrap that. But so chickens aren't going to save you. Chickens are only good until the government comes to kill you or take your chickens. So if you have chickens, that's just a lifestyle choice for the current system. But if you don't have a way to defend chickens or a network of people to help you defend your chickens, I mean, the Jews in Nazi Germany may have had chickens like that doesn't even show up in the history books. But why? It's insufficient. So we need to create more empowering ways to defend ourselves and each other. Ultimately, people say, does government have a monopoly on force? They have a supposed monopoly on force because the majority of us believe in the superstition of statism. But in reality, we also have the ability to use enough force to defend ourselves. But that requires organization, and organization requires relationships. And how is the government even the government? It's because they have created a network of mindless goons that are willing to take orders. And we haven't yet created a network that matches the ability to initiate or respond to force. So we're talking about just kind of like laws of nature right now. Why is there a government that oppresses us? It's because we have allowed a discrepancy in the power levels and organizational levels between government and us. So it's just like a bully on a playground. They're always the bully until somebody else knocks them out, or more, a couple people get together to defend themselves, and then the bully's not the bully anymore. So chickens aren't going to save you, but having eggs out of your own backyard right now, that's awesome. That's really cool. And nothing is going to save you if you don't have a network of people to help you defend that thing. And if the internet goes down or if the dollar goes away, you are still going to need to trade something. People that try to do it all themselves are going to die or have all their stuff taken. So you do need to create not only networks for surviving some kind of a collapse, but listen, if you want to maximize your life, let's say things don't continue to decline. Let's say that there's some miracle and, people turn their backs on government. We start creating our new society right now and just make the government obsolete, and it just kind of like goes away quietly, which is what a lot of my speeches are about. Mm-hmm. Let's just make new obsolete. Let's just make new paradigms that make the government obsolete, and then let the government die without us having to be involved in any kind of violence. That's really what we want. That's number one choice, right? And so let's say that society starts to flourish again. Then in this scenario, a positive scenario, connector is super valuable to people because we have the opportunity for self-maximization and self-actualization. So whatever the higher version of yourself is, it's going to be greatly facilitated by your exposure and influence of the 5 people you hang out with most. So if that is a fact that your network is your net worth, then the successes you're going to get in your own life have so much to do with just 2 things: your attitude and the people you hang out with. And so how do the 1% get everything done that they want to get done. They have a network built in that was created over the last 5 generations or whatever. We need to start acting like that so that we can become the highest version of ourselves as individuals, and then as neighborhoods, and then as towns, and so forth. So if society has a bright tomorrow, Connector is amazingly empowering for the individual. If society has a collapse tomorrow, Connector is an empowering tool for the individual. So
Yeah.
we have both scenarios in mind.
Yeah, let's hope actually it's somewhere in between. It's not too bad. And actually, I will say this: I think libertarians are the most principled people. I think they have the best ideas. I think the only thing where we fall short is, and I see this because again on my phone where I'm going to get Connector, I get tons of things. Are you voting for Orange Man? Are you hey, we organized? Are you going for Sleepy Joe? And I'm like, no, like don't even. Or are you going for Fetterman because I'm in Pennsylvania? And I don't like this, but I see this: the Democrats and the Republicans, when they want to, especially the Democrats, when they want to they get very organized. They almost become a like symbiote machine, or like the Flood in Halo. And it's kind of scary how now I'd say the only issue is, since we're individualists, which is good, it makes it more of a challenge to organize. Like I was doing my libertarian, do this thing. Let's all organize. Let's all go here. And they're like, no, I want to do this. I want to shoot guns. I want crypto. I want to, I don't know, get a ham sandwich or something. That's the biggest hurdle. I think
it really is, dude. It really is trying to get people, like, over the years on Facebook or wherever, I've heard people talk about, oh, if only we were more organized. Oh, if only we had more power to whatever, right? And then I create something that does exactly the thing that we need. And then people are like pathologically introverted to where they can't even generate, enough interest to share the post with their friends or something like that. And hey, if everyone should do whatever they want to do, but that is one of the biggest downfalls of anarchists, is that they're generally higher IQ than the average in the population, but that usually comes with and from insane introversion, to where, once a libertarian or an anarchist, finds one or two other people that they can get along with, like, they're usually done. And that's how I used to be, but I realized how many opportunities and experiences in life that I was missing out on. So I've been practicing being an extrovert for the last few years so that I don't miss out on life. I know I only have 80 years here or so, and I'm trying to get the most out of it that I can. And when I'm an 80-year-old man, I want to have as many memories as possible, and that's going to require having as many deep relationships during my life as possible. So I'm practicing being an extrovert enough to get things done. So pathological introversion is definitely a big problem for our community. And also, like, not being very ambitious with money. I've noticed that a lot of libertarians and voluntarists they want freedom, but they haven't figured out yet that the thing that you can do in your own personal life actually affects you more than the government. Like, we do need to get rid of government because it's an evil idea. But we also need to maximize ourselves. And part of that is our financial life, because freedom comes from choices. Money creates choices. Wealth really could be defined as choices. If someone has bad health, they have less choices. You're going to die, and the guy can't get out of bed and go, no, I'm not going to die. Anything where you don't have choice, that is some kind of wealth. And so I wish that libertarians and anarchists and voluntarists were more ambitious with money, because here's the other thing. If we want to do mutually voluntary interactions, Did you generate enough extra value on your side to attract the other person, or are you going to rely on coercion? If you're not creating 110% value or more, why would someone interact with you unless you force them to? So the idea like this, I'm going to get some chickens and just go live on a piece of land by myself. Like, really, dude? Like, the reason that population growth creates wealth is because in general people create more wealth to share with others, to exchange in business and commerce. We generate more wealth than we consume. And so that's why, you can imagine how much would a pint of Guinness cost you in Zimbabwe if there were only 10,000 people on the planet. It would cost you $1 million. It'd cost you a fortune. And that's because there are more people than 10,000 people, and we generate more value than we consume. And there's a supply line of value creators that are bringing Guinness down to Zimbabwe. So two of the things I would change if I had a magic wand is I would make all the freedom lovers a little less introverted, and I would make them a little more ambitious.
I think the interesting thing is, you're saying taking ambition. So being an entrepreneur is really the way that you change things. People want to say, well, I don't like X. No pun intended. But they'll say, I don't like this system. And I say, well, the idea is to create a counter to that. So you don't go like, oh, I'm just going to, smash it. In some cases, if someone, self-defense, yes. But in most cases, it's like, I'm going to create an alternative structure to this, which is really, really good. And you're saying, hey, how do I get people excited? Well, you're taking the ambition, you're taking the risk, which I'm really excited about. I think entrepreneurship's fun. You might as well do it. We only have so much time. And hey, Steve, if you're not inspired by Steve Jobs in some way, I don't know what you're doing. So there's a but the good way to incentivize people, I think, is what Scotland and Switzerland did, competing currencies. And cryptocurrencies and competing currencies work. There's tons of different currencies. There's tons of different projects. If I were to look in this space and say, okay, tons and tons of different projects, Shiba Inu, Doge, Solana, like there's some big ones. Why specifically, even if I care about freedom, would I pick the connector? Would I get some connector token?
Well, if someone is looking for the one currency, they're missing the point. Like, you need to have alternative currencies to whatever is the currency franca that everyone happens to be using, so that most popular currency doesn't become kind of a fiat currency that's forced on anyone. There always has to be alternatives. Freedom comes from alternatives. So which is the right currency? That's the wrong question. So it's just we need to have multiple competing currencies, and the ones that have some kind of a project or something that empowers people, some kind of real substance behind it, is what's going to make one currency more valuable to other people. And ultimately, we don't have to decide. You decide. The public decides. If something's valuable, people will use it. If an idea is good, people will do it. You don't have to initiate any kind of force. And so how do we decide which one is, the best currency? We don't. You let the forces of nature in a free economy just meaning people trading and interacting with each other, on a day-to-day basis, people might say, well, for buying a coffee, I'm going to use Litecoin, or I'm going to use Bitcoin Cash. For buying concert tickets on Connector, or buying something from other users on Connector app, I'm going to use the Connector coin that's already on the app. And because I have an active profile on the app, Connector pays me in Connector coin every month. I don't know if you know about this, Kareem, but part of our incentive model is that when the advertiser, so here, imagine a map, millions of users, hopefully billions eventually. are on the map, looking at each other, looking at their wallets, looking at a blog feed from people that they follow that comes in the comms panel, an encrypted blog feed that can't be censored, and you can't be shadow banned. And so since there's all that attention on the connector map, you know what I'll do? Let me do a screen share, man.
Yeah, I want to actually see this, and then ask the big question: if I'm an anarchist, voluntarist, minarchist, classical liberal, or I think government is not doing cool stuff, which they never are. Even if they do, it's always perceived by more bad stuff or a bad incentive. How do I take this from starting from zero and start to make these mutual defense pacts, these agreements, maybe even coming up with alternative food and stuff? I'm really interested to see that, and I'd love to see the app and then hear your explanation. All right, I'm an anarchist.
Let's open up the app that's not public yet, but and then I'll continue the rest of talking about the token life cycle and why there's going to be explosive growth. And then we'll also talk about what the actual process is for finding people. So I'm going to press this. I haven't used this platform before, so bear with me here. I'm going to try to do this present and then share screen. Okay, reading the instructions here.
Just say present and then
yeah, and then let me go through let me see what screen 1 looks like. No, not screen 1. Let me do screen 2. That is the one, but I want to share just this window, so
I think you can share a window at a time.
Okay, I'll choose this, and you tell me if you see the connector app.
I do.
Excellent. So I'm going to open up my profile here so you guys can see kind of what the profile panel looks like. So I'll do kind of a quick tour of connector, and then I'll continue with the life cycle of the monthly circulation of the coin. So
you're going to have. I was going to say I'll give incentive. If you don't have this installed on your phone, you're not a real libertarian. Because that's
challenge accepted.
Like, I have a gun, I have gold. Do you have connector app? You kind of seem like a statist to me. I'm not a statist. I'll show you.
Posers. So in your profile panel, you're going to have profiles that you can create that are in these categories: personal, dating, professional, and events. So in personal, this is for finding people to go do activities with, become friends with, discuss philosophy with, anything that you would do with a friend. And dating, obvious meaning here. And so professional. So with dating, it's going to be more specific than other dating platforms. It's going to have direct communications. It's going to have the ability to share live location if you want to, so that you can meet up with people. On the map, you're not going to see any kind of advertisers except things that are relevant to dating, like restaurants and tourist attractions, stuff like that. So then on, and also you can choose to date people that are closer to you than people farther away. And so Connector, this platform will facilitate efficient and more precise dating. So professional profiles is going to be like resumes that you can place anywhere on the map and then anywhere in the world. And then it'll have searchable keywords in it just the same way that the other profiles do. And so that an employer or an investor can weed out all the other people that are on the map and find exactly who they're looking for and open up an encrypted communications right in the app. And it's just like like a force multiplier, like a massive efficiency, massive like precision, so that you can level up your life or your financial goals, and get things done like today instead of the way it takes right now, where finding the right relationships and people to help you figure something out and all that stuff takes so long right now, because forming relationships right now is largely accidental, and clumsy at best. But and so events, you're going to tell Connector what kind of events you want to attend, what kind of concerts, what kind of lectures, what kind of classes, what kind of group events, and then Connector will notify you of something that's coming up that matches what you're interested in. Even if you are traveling, it will be able to do that if you set it up to do that. If you set your location to live location and then ask Connector to give you notifications. And then inside the personal profiles, you'll actually be able to host events like yoga in the park, or garage sales, or selling organic eggs out of your backyard, that sort of thing.
I was going to ask a question. So, in the unfortunate event of Anarchapulco being destroyed, which I think they still, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if they still got it going or if it's, I'm not sure what.
Yeah, they just had one.
Okay. So, let's just say this. Anarchapulco, is still recovering though. But I started seeing Anarch Philadelphia, Mark Passio's thing. So what's the best way if I want to do not that I'm going to do exactly what Jeff or Mark Passio or someone, I'm going to do my own event. What's the best way to host your own anarchist get together and get all the anarchists in your area? Kind of your own Anarchapulco with it.
Yeah, so if you want it to be small scale, then you'll be able to create an event. It doesn't show here because it's in the next stage of development. This is what you're looking at right now is MVP. But in the next stage of development, there's going to be another category here. You can see that there's code words, affinities, social profiles, and then location stuff. But there will also be another facility down here that is where you host small events. And these are events that are just like a one-time thing, like yoga in the park or something like that, or a small get-together about anarchy. You could host something like that, like a private club. Mm-hmm. And then also in personal profiles, though, there will be a blog. So you'll be able to write a daily blog in your personal profile here, and then everybody that you're connected with on Connector, they'll see the stuff that you post in their comms panel along with all their contacts. So I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. So for code words, this allows you to have a special identifier that you share with specific people that you want. So for an example, I have a motorcycle club and we all have VBMC in our code words. So if I put in VBMC in the search term, everyone else is going to go away except people who have that in their profile. So that allows us to see each other and connect really quickly and see where each other are. So affinities, these are interests that you have, and these are searchable keywords. And then your social profiles, if you hit this button, it's going to go to the person's actual, anything they have. It could, like, we have a long list of different social platforms that you can share with people and let them know who you are, so they can better ascertain if you're a good fit to be friends with and make a connection. This is going to be where you connect your Web3 wallet, so that you can have Connector Coin, Bitcoin Cash, and maybe Monero will be one of the included. I'm not sure what's going to show up here, but that's for the technical people to flesh out.
I'm guessing
and
MetaMask.
Location stuff.
Oh.
Could be MetaMask. MetaMask has been giving me trouble lately. It could be Trust Wallet, the Web3, the browser edition. So I just saved the changes to this profile. And so after you make a profile and you put it on the map, and you go over here and you look for anything, there's a long list of affinities that you can look up. So I'm just gonna look for cryptocurrency. And so over here you can see that cryptocurrency is now a an active search term. So no one on the map here does not have cryptocurrency in their profile. So if I just open up this guy right here, so there you go. You can see that this user has cryptocurrency as one of their affinities. So I could just open up, I could press the connect button and connect with this person, and then start a, okay, our comms panel is in development. One of the developers has it off on a separate leg right now. So, but this basically looks like in your comms panel here, you're going to have like 3 rows of blogs that come from the people that you follow. And then there will be a whole list of all the people that you're connected with. It'll look a lot like Telegram or any kind of contact list. And then Connector sends you notifications of people who are in proximity with you that you're friends with, any new users who come on the platform that share your affinities, any concerts that are coming up, lectures and meetups and classes, group events, and then videos like how-to videos from Connector or other notices from Connector will show up here in your notifications panel. So this is like the Swiss Army knife of creating empowering connections between people. So we think that there are going to be many ways that people use Connector that we're not even aware of right now. So we're looking forward to hearing from people like how they use Connector in the future. So going back to your, we were talking about the life cycle of Connector coin. So if there are millions of people, just think about a business model and value propositions. So if there are millions and eventually billions of people looking at this map to check their wallet, to check their blogs, to check their communications with other people on here, or to check new users on the map, or to check all the information in the notifications panel, then advertisers are going to want to be seen on the map. If everybody has their eyes here, attention is a currency. If everyone has their eyes here, advertisers are going to want to show up on this map. So we are going to sell exposure on the map to advertisers to be seen only by relevant profiles. So what this does is, if you look at my profile here, my interests are, for this profile, are cryptocurrency, voluntarism, investing, and real estate. So on my map, I would only see advertisers that are related to these topics. I won't see probably Walmart's or, create like anything that's unrelated. And so what that does is, for me as a user, it makes advertising helpful and wanted, because I do want to know where the people are, where the stores are that are relevant to these interests that I have. The reason that advertising really sucks in this day and age is that advertisers are trying to do a shotgun approach, and they're trying to inundate us with messages that aren't relevant. But the only thing worse than a world full of marketing is a world that would be completely devoid of marketing.
Correct.
Because then you wouldn't know where anything is. You'd have to go knock on every door. Hey, do you sell eggs? Do you sell patches for an inner tube? That would be a hell on earth, I think. So what we're doing here is making it so that not only is it more empowering for the user, but it's also more efficient for the advertiser, because if he knows there is now a way to engage in opt-in, super targeted marketing, now the advertiser doesn't waste a whole bunch of money trying to advertise to people who are never going to come to his store. He's only advertising to people who have already told us they're interested in his products. So that's how the advertising works. So when advertisers want to show up on the map, we allow them to choose how many people they are seen by with these relevant profiles. So let's say it's a sporting goods company, a nationwide sporting goods company in the United States. People have mountain biking, people have tennis, people have camping, cross-country trail running, whatever, right, in their profiles. So there are millions, there are going to be millions of profiles in the United States that have something that's relevant to his store. So he can choose, the owner of the store can choose how many profiles he wants to be exposed to. And then we charge, at current time, we charge 10 cents per month per profile. So he'll be able to be seen by a profile, a matching profile for a whole month for only 10 cents. Now, if they pay in Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin or Monero, then they'll pay 10 cents a head to be exposed for a whole month. And so what it'll be is they'll have an icon on the map that's just like these profile icons, but it'll be an icon that signifies that it is a store. And then if you click on that, it's going to have all their information about the store, sales times, their phone number, their address, and it'll also have communication between you, the user, and somebody at the store. That'll be this direct communication. So there's a big trend right now of companies hiding their contact information so they don't have to deal with their customers. We don't allow that on Connector. If the store owner doesn't want to have some kind of direct way for customers to contact somebody at the store, then we're going to make it very difficult for them to show up on the map at all. So, okay. So when they pay, I'll just finish up the coin lifecycle here. When they pay in, we give them a 50% discount if they use Connector Coin. So they're incentivized to use Connector Coin. So that means there's going to be a huge buyer every month on these exchanges of Connector Coin, driving the demand up. So this is a value proposition for anybody that's considering investing in Connector Coin right now. We have these mechanisms baked in to Connector, and we also have these incentives that are going to create this huge upward pressure on the price, that there is a huge buyer every month of Connector Coin, but also this buyer has low price sensitivity because they are going to double their money when they spend Connector Coin the next day. So Connector Coin could go to $1 million. These advertisers don't care because the next day they get double their money when they send the money back to Connector to pay for their advertising. So that's the huge upward pressure incentive that we've built in with that. So when the money comes into us, we send 10% off to whoever created that relationship with that advertiser. So that's called an account executive. That's just basically like a sales rep. Whenever that store has a problem with their payment gateway or anything about their profile, they're going to call their account representative. Well, that guy gets 10% right off the top in crypto. And then we set aside a 5% pool that goes to all the active users and a separate 5% pool that goes to the early adopters, anybody that's in Connector in the first 6 months. And then with the remaining, we send 10% to charities and projects that we deem worthy, usually other freedom-oriented projects. So that's 30% gone off the top. And we send the other 70% back to the exchanges so that investors and advertisers can buy it the next month. So that's the whole life cycle. And you can see that users are incentivized to stay active on the map so that they get paid every month. Advertisers are incentivized to use Connector Coin because they get a huge discount. And we've created pricing so that advertising makes like super simple sense to anybody, that it's a huge value proposition for them to be advertising on Connector Coin. So because we are voluntarist, everybody in the project is voluntarist, we have incentives in mind at every turn in the development of this ecosystem.
Yeah, you need incentives to, build any kind of community, because the best way to, in my opinion, to build a voluntary community, or to even build anything, is, well, what is the incentive to do it? Why get off my couch to do anything? Well, you need an incentive. Even if the incentive is just pure altruism, you need a good incentive. What I was going to ask is, so I like to have my anarchist friends, all different types of anarchists, on. I do use Telegram. phone number. And I do use Discord. I think those are pretty good. And then there's a couple other, decentralized ways I like to talk. They're key based, but they stopped updating that. I have my Mises people on Signal. And then there's just, I can list a bunch of stuff off that I use to message. Now, there's messaging in the app, which I think is great. Is there any plans or any way to integrate, like if I have my anarchist community on Discord and then I'm trying to meet up with them using Connector? I know that we're getting a little bit technical, but is there a good way to integrate those two? So I can say, oh, okay, my Discord friends are here, here, and here, or Telegram or any other app.
To be able to integrate pre-existing groups into Connector?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a few ways. So one is in your profile, you're going to have a QR code that you can share with people in real life. So if you're at an event and you want to go around and get your friends all connected together with you on Connector Coin or on Connector app, then not only will they be able to scan a QR code so that real life relationships become Connector relationships, then you'll also be incentivized by Connector. We'll actually send you some kind of a reward for getting people on the app.
Nice.
So you're incentivized to share that QR code with people in real life, right? So not only can you go that way from real life back to Connector app, but you can put code words in your profile that other people that from your pre-existing groups and so your code words can be very specific. They don't have to be something vague like, libertarian. It could be libertarian, capital A, lowercase a, 718. It could be very specific so that everybody who has that in their profile can be filtered. And then you can go and add those people on the Connector app to become your contacts in Connector. So these are just two ways that you can make relationships on the map turn into real life relationships, or you can make real life relationships turn into relationships inside Connector.
Nice. So as I mentioned,
the third thing, and it answers your question more specifically, that QR code in your profile, you can share with people online as well in these pre-existing. So your Telegram group, your groups that you have online, you can share that with them. And then that leads them to becoming a connected group on the Connector map.
Great. So let's get into some really specific things that I want to do that break the status paradigm. Because as they always say in the Anarchapulco commercial, you don't break the old by fighting the old. You break the old by fight the old by creating the new. So there's a big problem I think a lot of people have, especially in the inner city. We're seeing this now in New York. We're seeing this in even rural areas. If I pick this up and I call 911, I'm not saying anything bad about first responders. Actually, I think people who do that, or EMTs, actually have a great deal of respect for a lot of those people. Not so much the authorities, but here's the problem: they got to call, like we said on the phone, you got to call a dispatch. And then that dispatch got to call the ambulance. And then there's like 4 points of contention. Then an hour and a half later, maybe 45 minutes if you're lucky, you can get help. Now, I have the Connector app, and I'm like, man, something is going down that's not good. How would you advise people use the Connector app if they're like, well, maybe I don't want to connect with my friends so much, but maybe I want somebody there in case whatever hits the fan. And obviously we know how it works, but what would you recommend saying, hey, Anam, I just want to have someone to back me up, or I want a mutual defense pact. What's the best way to, or how do you recommend using this app to do that? What keywords, what would they look for?
So specifically, you're talking about creating ahead of time a mutual defense group.
A mutual defense or emergency group. Because let's say the state's gone. Let's say, we beat the state. People's houses things will still catch on fire. People still watch Carrot Top. People might still think Amy Schumer's funny, and you got to go help those people because that's a serious problem. Okay, maybe that wasn't funny, throwing my bad punchlines. Maybe just somebody chokes on a popcorn kernel. I know I've done that. Like that. And I don't want to wait for 911 because even in ANCAP stand, there'll be some constraints. I want my neighbor to come over and be like, Heimlich. So how do you
Yeah.
connect for not only defense? Let's say it's relatively peaceful neighborhood. Let's say it's
Hmm.
all good to go. Let's say you're in northern Montana or North Dakota. That there's no scary, or West Virginia. Let's say you're in West Virginia too. Nothing scary out there other than what things in nature. But I need somebody help with emergencies because emergencies always happen. How do I use connector to mutual emergency packs to end that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to unpack it a little bit, you talked about calling government emergency systems. And so for fire or a ride to the hospital, I would probably recommend the I would probably recommend calling the fire department or calling an ambulance if you have to go to the hospital. I would never recommend calling the police. There's nothing that's going on in your house that you would need the police for. If something's serious enough, you probably need to take care of it on your own. I'm not saying that because I'm an anti-government person, an anti-theft person, an anti-force initiation person. I'm saying that for efficiency and practicality. The police never get to your house in time to stop something from happening. So it's already the reality that you have to take care of problems on your own, and then call the coroner. If someone broke into your house and you have to put them down, let's say they were threatening bodily harm, or a similar situation, you had to put them down, then afterwards, who are you really calling? I'm not giving legal advice to anybody, but I know that what would happen if somebody came into my domain with intention to harm myself or my family or my friends. It wouldn't be a scenario that lasted very long. And so I would be calling like somebody to come and dispose of the body, or probably the authorities would get involved, after the fact, but it wouldn't be me that initiates that because I don't interact with the authorities. For many reasons. I'm a principled voluntarist, but also, I have rules in my motorcycle club. We're not allowed to talk to cops. So somebody else would have to do that if that had to happen. But so the second part of your question is about forming task-specific groups ahead of time. So because you can have more than one profile in your personal profiles, you could have one that's specifically geared for like community watch, emergency management, and like threat management, maybe like guarding your neighborhood or reacting to a neighbor's house that's on fire, or Connector allows you to do what you want to do, but it doesn't specify what you are supposed to do, because we want to leave the freedom up to the user. So you can set up Connector so that you have immediate, quick contact with people that you've ahead of time selected these people to help you respond to emergencies. And then from there, if you guys want to call the ambulance or call the fire department or call somebody else to help you, like that's more equipped to handle emergencies, then you can do that. But a lot of times, I don't know when the last time I even needed to call the police. Yeah, I don't think I ever have. So a lot of times the scenarios that we have in our life that are emergencies can be handled by ourselves and capable neighbors. And we encourage that. The future that we want to live in is built on relationships of capable, competent, voluntary interactors. And so if you don't have someone in your life right now that can help you respond to a kitchen fire, why?
Yeah.
Because you've been brainwashed into thinking that somebody that's a couple miles away is going to help you fight that fire. Well, they might, but the fire is going to be at least twice as big by the time they get there. So, do you know how to change your tire on your car? Do you know how to dress a knife wound that you hurt yourself in the kitchen or something like that? These are skills that we need to start getting back into our lives and stop relying on centralized authorities, because just not as an anti-government person, not as a pro-human person, but just talking about efficiency and practicality. A centralized authority for any kind of a solution is a single point of failure. We saw that during the COVID lockdowns. We saw that the government itself was the cause of most of the breaks in the supply chain. We saw that having these, just relying on the store for our food was a break in the supply chain and caused barriers for people getting food. We saw that everybody lost their small businesses because of the fact that every one of them had signed up for business licenses from the government. Like, why are you operating your business with permission from the government? Like, where did that even come from? You're paying somebody to say you can serve people? Like, no, create private clubs. Start now, get away from business licenses. That makes your business an agent of the state, and it makes you also susceptible to the whims of the state. These people who are not qualified technicians or professionals in the fields of these emergencies are telling us how to respond to them. And then what happened during COVID, we proved that we know better, that the masks don't work, that social distancing doesn't work, that the vax actually hurts more than it helps. We all had an intuition about all this stuff. We knew the media was lying about how overrun the hospitals were because we just drove to the hospitals and looked at them. So having a single point of information, a single point of where you get your food, a single point of emergency management, that's going to kill us if we don't get over that real quick. That's all based on a superstition that we learned in government schools. And it's time for us to evolve. We have to go to the next level, and that involves making your life better while you're making my life better. And we know this is true in our interactions because they're voluntary. So it's evident by the fact that we continue to do the interaction. This is where the next level of human consciousness and the next level of human social evolution is going to be built.
I love it.
And that's what Connector is all about.
I love it. Eric July has a great line out of a song. He said you wanted a savior. Even people are looking for saviors. As a Trump, as this guy said, you wanted a savior. Every day we go through voluntary exchanges. That's your savior. It's not. It's not a politician. It's not even. It's not Trump. It's not Biden. It's not even. It's not me. It's not exactly you. It's not Malay. It is. Hey, I want this. I have a surplus of this, or I can offer this, and you have this. Okay, I want this. Okay, society becomes richer. In my opinion, people say hard work. I say kind of. Actually, society becomes richer because of social cooperation. I can build a motherboard. Okay, I can build an LCD. Okay, suddenly we have a functional phone because people could social. That's why Mises says in the clunky word social cooperation under the division of labor, which really means like, hey, I can do thing, you can do thing. Let's coordinate this so we can get thingy, and then everybody is happy. So you're saying helping people get these skills. Well, maybe some people don't have certain resources. Let's face it. Some people don't have certain skills. My dad kind of agrees with my libertarian views, even though like blue dog Democrats, and they're kind of on board with it. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's decentralize defense agency security. But they're like, well, Kareem, I don't feel really good about getting rid of everything because we need a social safety net. There's poor people, there's this, there's that. And I would ask, okay, I have Connector app. Maybe I got the emergencies good. Maybe I'm not worried about getting hurt. We got Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety. We got that. All right. But, maybe maybe I do have chickens, and we'll go back to the chicken. I have chickens now, and maybe I have this or that. Let's say I want to get specific foods, or I want mutual aid. And I mean, mutual aid could be barter, it could be market, it could be anything you want. How do I use Connector if I want to use Connector? And this will go out to my left, people can get, left or right libertarian. But this will go out to maybe if I want to get help from my libertarian friends through mutual aid, or anybody through mutual aid. What's the best way to use Connector for mutual aid in your opinion? What would you do? Would you type in like, okay, I want this food, or I want if I need money for a project, or if I need help, how do I use this for mutual aid?
Yeah, man. So just like the process we went through on the Connector app preview, where you have profiles, and then you can include in your profile from the growing list of affinities that are already there, or you can put in your own code words into your profile. So in this way, people will be able to find each other based on anything, things we don't even have an idea about. So if you want to form groups that kind of reenact the guild system of the early 1900s, where it was kind of like in between barter and medium of exchange that we have now, where it was people all within a certain field of occupation would pay in to something that you get a discount if you buy bulk, right? And you could buy bulk dental or bulk vision care or bulk haircuts or bulk. They had all kinds of stuff back in the early 1900s because government didn't supply these things. So nowadays we're so conditioned by the government that government is the solution that we forget that we already had these voluntary solutions in the past. And so Connector allows you to search for people based on code words or keywords and form groups that really can do anything. Connector Company actually has no idea in what way you are going to use Connector. So if you want to do that, form guilds or form special interest groups that get bulk discounts for ophthalmology or dental or whatever. That's 100%. And here's the other thing I'll say too about politics. Connector allows you to form communes, and it also allows you to find venture capitalists to help you with your next project. So we are anarchists, and that means we want to serve. We want anything that's possible in voluntary interactions to be tried. So we understand there's Republicans that want to do homeschooling and they want to get away from whatever's going on with government schooling right now. Connector helps Republicans. We understand that Democrats want to get together and tie-dye T-shirts or talk about how everything is a human right, or vote on how they're going to steal money from each other. I'm not sure, but they could all do that over there on Connector. They can form a special little group where they do that, and then anarcho lefties can form little communes over here, and hopefully that can survive the fact that no one will do the dishes, but they are free to be able to try that, and it's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, I'll say they put the left libertarian be like, you do the dishes, I'll do the, and they'll exchange stuff. I know some of my right libertarian friends fight about that, but here's the thing. I think a lot of these things can work because, hey, you get people with common ideas. We see it working with the Amish. We see it working with that, even without technology. So this is going to be amazing. Let me throw one curveball and then got one more question and definitely wrap it up, but this has been awesome. Let's say Connector scales. Let's say it keeps scaling and scaling and scaling. And the U.S. debt is going up by $1 trillion. Like someone said, you have a scary story, and there was a cute girl on Twitter Spaces, and I'm like, say something funny and witty. Say something like, the U.S. scary story. The U.S. debt is going up by $1 trillion each day. Isn't that scary? So let's say the Pentagon collapses eventually as a result of that, which I'll be like, okay, cool. If Connector keeps scaling, do you see the potential for not just mutual defense, but actual, I don't want to call it national defense, but because Robert Murphy talks about getting insurance companies and eventually, privatized military, real, not Blackwater, I don't want to hear anybody say that because they work with the feds. But do you see this being a facilitating tool to eventually create, I don't want to call it large scale private defense, but actual private defense? Does it have the capability to do that? Would you see that
Well,
scaling in the future?
I'm not sure the question is consistent, because if the government falls,
Mm-hmm.
then the idea of a nation becomes more nebulous.
Okay.
So, like, I probably have, I grew up most of my life in the Pacific Northwest. So I probably have more in common with people in Canada just north of the border than I do with people in your neck of the woods. Once the government goes away and we're not both using dollars and both paying homage to some psychopaths in Washington, D.C., then all of a sudden things kind of just become more regional. So can you form physical defense groups to defend the people in your area in small groups and in larger, like, confederated groups? The answer is 100% yes. This is already happening without Connector. So Connector, as I don't know about where you are in the northeast of the United States, but when I was in the United States, on the West Coast, basically in Nevada and in Washington State and in Idaho, people are armed to the teeth. I don't know anyone that doesn't have 20 plus guns, and they train regularly, both privately in the woods, doing run and guns and safety drills, and also on courses like front sight and different organized skills courses. So Connector as like a force multiplier and an efficiency maximizer for opening up communications with other people with shared interests, it would make this kind of organization even more efficient and even more precise. Like, you can have more intentionality with it, because now all the barriers to meeting people is gone. Like the speed of community is now going to be visible. You can literally just build communities. Like, in a day, you could build a community that starts with a hub of 8 people and go from there, and then attach your little community to someone else's little community. And it could be about anything. It could be about, we're going to have a little car club. We're going to have an art club. We're going to have a gun club. We're going to have mutual defense agreements. If the shit goes down, we're all here, and we're going to respond in these different ways. And that's the way it used to be before we started relying on government for everything that it still doesn't provide for us, but promises to. And so I think that that's the way it will be again if society has any major social shifts. So I'm a big proponent of us all evolving to the next level of human social evolution, and that is a voluntary world. This primitive caveman idea of let's all allow a small group of psychopaths to initiate force on us and steal from us in order to serve our interests by printing a bunch of money. They spend it all, then we have to pay it back, and they spend it on their friends who build bombs to drop bombs on our hospitals and poor people around the world. This is a primitive era in human history, and just like slavery and just like many other eras, just like the democide that happened in the 1900s, where government killed 262 million of their own people around the world throughout the 1900s, we will look back at this era of statism and have shame for our low consciousness as individuals and as society. And we will know in our minds we're never going back to that. The only justifiable interactions are voluntary interactions. Period. Now let's build some cool shit.
I love it. I love it. We can definitely end on that note. That was a super high note. Also, a big thing is, I think the tide started to turn, especially when John Locke started to question, hey, You're a king. How are you a king? Well, divine right. Well, who gave you that? Well, God did. Well, where did he do this? Like, the argument doesn't hold up. We've gone past kingship, except in maybe Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Dubai. We've gone past that. The majority of people have. Now all we have to do is see the state as basically the post-Marxists call it a ideological superstructure, or Larkin Rose says the most dangerous superstition, or I just like
That's
it's
right.
mafia with a flag. These people
That's
are
right.
just mafioso. The mafia would behave the same way. Maybe the mafia actually behave better because they're competing mafia, but they're just mafia with a flag. If you can see that, then I think it loses its legitimacy. The big question is we need something to build in place of that, because people say, well, I want something in place of that. And I think
100%.
not only uh, as the thing that we're building like communities, but we need a way to organize. And the best way to do that is connector. And I'm hoping that, I'm not saying Web3 will be all sunshine and rainbows, but I think we're even moving in a paradigm in the internet from Web 1. You talk to Darth Vader to get on the internet. No one can use the phone. You got AOL, you got the 50 long, dial-up phone cord, and trying to play games on a huge CRT monitor. Now we're in Web 2. The problem is we have all these big tech conglomerates coming after us. So really what I think the best evolution on the internet as well, of arriving in consciousness, is to have the wild, wild west of the web, Web 1, like AOL, kind of have the open free market. And I don't like the word of the Wild West, but like have an open free exchange, but also have these decentralized, as they call them, D apps that people can use. I think Connector is going to be huge. Maybe even D chat. Maybe we'll see forms of Telegram that don't need KYC, Discord, and that's going to be huge, because people will be like, wait, I can get incentive to get paid to use these apps, and they're not controlled by, Zuckerberg and friends or big tech. Wow, that's cool. I'm going to use this, get paid, put my NFT or whatever it is, put my stuff up, for auction. That's going to be huge. Web3, I think, has the potential to not only go, because people always ask me, Kareem, what do we do? Shouldn't we break up big tech? I'm like, look at John D. Rockefeller. Did that work with Standard Oil? No. Okay, well, just get a senator to yell at them. Oh, look, Josh Hawley, yelled at the CEO of Twitter, or they yelled at Zuckerberg, or they yelled at this. I'm like, that doesn't solve anything. Okay, well, just have this or break this up. They're already separate companies. Okay, Kareem, what do we do about big tech? Build alternative stuff that people want to use. Well, you can't compete with them. I beg to differ. We have Connector. We have Odyssey. We have things like DChat. We have things coming out as well. Bastion, and with Twitter. And if you utilize and learn about these alternative technologies, we give the big boys a run from their money. Not only that, but we create a freer world. And I think we are on the turning point of awakening, where people do want to give up on the state. They just need an alternative. So Anam Paisenta, I really, really thank you for what you're doing, and we're going to keep doing much, much more on Connector. This is not the end. Do you have any closing remarks about anarchy, ANCAP stuff for Connector, or anything else?
Well, I just want to remind people that a world where we see love in action every day is possible, and 95% of the people are good people, and we want to create a world where those people are empowered, not the other people. And so if you're watching this and you aren't a voluntarist yet, and you don't understand what voluntary society is, I urge you, the viewer, to do a little bit of research about voluntary society and find out how we can evolve socially to the next level and to a voluntary world. And then also I would say that if anybody is interested in helping the Connector app project in future development, then I would say buy Connector coin now before the price goes up. If you've watched this whole video, you have heard about all of the incentives that are going to create massive upward pressure, and there are incentives that we didn't even mention today, like a 40 cents minimum redemption value when advertisers use Connector Coin in the first 12 months of the Connector app being live. So you're able to buy it right now on Pink Sale for 4 cents. You're able to buy it on P2B, the initial exchange offering that's happening later on in March at 5 cents. Once it lists and it goes live, then the public controls the price, and it's probably going to go up. This is not financial advice, but if you understand incentives, you understand the reasons to buy Connector Coin right now. And if you know me and you look at my history, you can see that we've been talking about Connector app for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe even more. And finally, it's come to fruition and the platform is ready to roll out for you. So take advantage, help the project, help yourself, invest in Connector Coin, reach out to me personally or anyone else on the Connector team, or go to pinksale.finance and find the Connector Coin being sold there and take part in the very beginnings of a massive shift in social connection.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll even do some shout outs. So you're watching this, you're tired of government, which I think most people are. You want an alternative. Definitely Connector Coin is the best place to start. Go check that out on Pink Sale. And definitely, hey, some of the resources are even free to get started as well when it comes to learning about anarchy, such as go type in Murray Rothbard's The Anatomy of the State. That will wake you up. Go check out Jack Lloyd's The Definitive Guide to Voluntarism. Even on the left side, Errico Malatesta's Anarchy, stuff like that. Go check that out. Get active in your community. But how do you do that? Well, you want to get the Connector app. And how do you benefit from that? Well, the best thing, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, due diligence. Don't invest in anything you're not willing to lose. So I think Connector is absolutely going to change the world. Install your Web3 wallet, get that contract address, put it in, make sure to top that off with enough so that covers the fees. Switch, boom, and you're good to go. I have tutorials on that. But the biggest thing is, guys, we need a freer world. We need to beat the old by creating the new. And this is a great way to do it. I'm Kareem with the Essential Libertarians. Just talked to Anam Paisenta from the Connector app, and we're going to have more on this. This is definitely just the beginning, and I'm super excited for it to go live. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good night, day, or wherever you're watching. I'm Kareem with the Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools for self-governance, especially the Connector app. Catch you later.